Today, I'd like to show you how to make a skull bottle. Also, when I was diving, I found these spare brains. Somebody must be missing these. Hi, my name's Angela and I'm crafting from the boat that I live on and travelling up and down the east coast of Australia. So peaceful out here. Okay, so here we are going out to the reef and it is coming up to Halloween, so I thought I'd start a little Halloween project. And I've got this empty Chambord bottle and these 2 packets of cheap polymer clay. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the anatomy of a human skull, and I think this bottle is just crying out to become a skull bottle. And I'm tossing up between whether I do something as realistic as I can or a
I need a t-shirt.
a film here or a candy skull, like, you know, the Mexican one. So I'll have a look and kind of go with how I feel, but at the moment I'm leaning towards the realistic skull. Anyway, first step is to soften all this polymer clay. You can even go a little bit more right. Slightly.
Okay.
We arrived safely into a place called Little Black Reef, which is off the east coast of Airlie Beach. The most important thing when anchoring is to find a place where we won't be close to any coral or bommies. The water looks incredible and I can't wait to go swimming. I'll show you some of our diving later, but first, let's craft. So here I am about to start. I've got a few reference photos and I'm going to use these as inspiration for my skull bottle, and I'm going to be as accurate as I can, but also, you know, knowing that it's just a mythical thing, I might have some fun with it. And what I've done is I've scratched up the bottle with a little bit of sandpaper and used a little bit of soap to just clean off any grease or oils on the bottle. And now I'm about to soften the clay. Completely wrapping the bottle was much easier than I thought. Once the clay was soft, I just put it into coils or snakes and wrapped it around and blended it all together. I then started to figure out the shapes that I needed to start making the skull. Really, I had no idea and I was just experimenting at this stage. I was slowly starting to piece together how it was going to work. I decided after I'd done this to actually fill in the nose and press it in later with some tools. But this is the gist of the idea of what I started with. I needed some more polymer clay, so I softened some more. I used a ball of polymer clay to hold the jaw out away from the bottle, and then I used some tools to make the nostrils. I used some curve blending tools to kind of put it all together. This one was a little bit sharper and I was able to cut out the eye sockets. I toyed with the idea of making a bottom jaw, but in the end I decided against it and just decided to put on some teeth. They were very simple to make. I just rolled up some balls of polymer clay, flattened them, and then just cut a straight line at the top. The captain wasn't too impressed at my first attempt at teeth, so I ended up redoing them. I also cut holes for the nostrils, which I found worked really well and made it look a lot better and more realistic. I gave him a raised eyebrow bone just for fun, and then I cut out underneath the teeth to make the jawline. At this stage, I'm pretty happy with him. I think he's got a cool character and I can't wait to bake him. Make sure you take off the cap before baking. Anyway, let's have a quick break and I'll show you some of the diving we've been doing. I'm pretty excited right now. Alex has brought me to the drop-off and look how clear it looks. My goodness. While Captain Alex looks for dinner, I look for some pretty things to film. There is an amazing array of caves and little grottos and all kinds of things. Not many big fish, but it's certainly very interesting. Captain can dive much deeper than I can. I get a little bit jealous because I'd really like to get down there. Maybe if I keep practicing. If you listen closely, you can hear the whales. They go, woo. I love swimming with turtles. They really kind of encourage me to go deeper and deeper until I realize that I'm too deep. Here's the brain I found. Isn't it cool? Towards the end of the dive, I put the GoPro down and I swam away. I got some really great footage this way, and I think it's my new favourite hobby. I'll share some of the footage that I take and I'll title it The Secret Life of Fish. I could watch fish for hours. I never get bored. Meanwhile, back on the boat, it's baking time. Do your research of what baking time and temperature that you'd like to use on your polymer clay. I don't have a thermometer, so I'm just winging it here, and sometimes I burn them. After some trial and error, I don't bake less than 1 hour. Here's a close-up of the tool that I use. It's very cheap and has an annoying little line on there, but I could fix that. But otherwise, this one is a really good joining tool. So my oven doesn't have a thermometer, and we had a little bit of an accident. I'm just gonna work with that. So don't overheat your polymer clay, but hopefully you have a thermometer. I've been carrying around some gold leaf for the last 5 years and I've never actually tried it, so I decided to give it a go. I'm using imitation gold leaf and I'm using the Montmartre leafing size. The instructions say to apply the leafing size with a soft brush and leave for 25 minutes. I then use some tweezers to gently add the gold leaf on top. I only wanted to do one tooth just as an experiment, and I think it looks really great. I decided to use some paints to add some highlights to the polymer clay. I got some on the glass, which is okay because once it's dry you can use a hard bristle brush and just brush it off. So here it is, the finished product. I'm actually really super stoked with it. I used a little bit of paint to highlight some of the shadowy areas, and then once the paint was dry I used a dry paintbrush to kind of just brush it off. I've gold leafed one of the teeth, and which I still need to use a little bit of a sealer on, but apart from that, I think it's awesome. I would change a few things if I was doing it again. I would make sure that I marked out where the different parts of the glass bottle are. If you can see inside one eye, I accidentally came up on that circle that was there. And also the other thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't scratch the glass, because I think that it stuck well enough, and now I'm left with this scratchy glass kind of part here. But I guess for this one I'm not going to worry too much. I can always use a little bit of resin or some kind of varnish to make it glossy again. But for a first try on making an art bottle, apart from the one that I did with the love potion, I'm really happy with how this has turned out. It's going to be a Christmas gift for a good friend. I'd give it to him for Halloween, but we won't see him. Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him. Horatio, a fellow of infinite jest, of most excellent fancy, he hath borne me on his back 1,000 times,